Officials in Kyiv simply aren't interested in recruiting them.
Ukraine is reluctant to be cooperative.
That's Routh, a U.S. citizen who set up the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine to help connect foreigners to Ukrainian military units.
Now I'm talking to over 100 soldiers every day, and pretty much everybody, all of my contacts in Ukraine, they were adamant and pretty much yelled at me every time that I suggested that we bring in Afghans.
The Ukrainian government didn't respond to our request for comment, but a source close to the officials in Kyiv told Semaphore that their top concern is the question of loyalty in the thick fog of war.
The biggest thing is spies. They're afraid that anybody and everybody is a Russian spy.
Those concerns aren't completely unfounded.
So I've been looking into this Wesley Routh guy. And, he makes a lot of bold claims. A lot of claims that I think people are dismissing because this guy is kind of nutso, let's be honest. Oh man, this guy is a freaking weirdo, a freaking psycho. But he makes a lot of bold claims that I think a lot of people are simply looking over because of how crazy he is. Now, he has left behind an extensive history of social media posts, a lot of which are kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get a read on this guy. And I'm reading some of the stuff he said, some of his claims, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, is this the psychotic ramblings of a psychopath? Or is there tidbits of truth within these claims? Because one thing that I think people are overlooking too much right now, and I think it's dangerous to overlook this, is that this guy claimed that he had access to over 20,000 trained soldiers. At one point, he claimed that he had access to 20,000 U.S. trained soldiers. At other points, he was claiming that he had access to all types of Afghan soldiers, and he could illegally somehow transport them from Afghanistan to Ukraine to help Ukraine fight in their war against Russia. He had all of these wild claims, and, looking at it and how crazy the guy is, and he just did something crazy, it's easy to be like, yeah, there's no truth to none of this, but what if there is? What if there is some truth that he has access to these soldiers or mercenaries from around the world? What could they be up to right now? Now, obviously, some of his claims, like I said, they were pretty far out there. Are we really going to believe that this guy, Wesley Routh, had access to 20,000 soldiers he could call up? A small army? Or he had access to all of these soldiers in Afghanistan? Maybe you think those claims are a little far out there, crazy, and not true. But let's just say this guy had access to a few psychopaths like him. Maybe he was over-exaggerating in his claims, but let's say there was a tidbit of truth. Let's say the guy did have access to some crazies like himself. What could they be up to right now? And are they planning to do something bad to Donald Trump? That's the real question at hand. Because I can't sit here and simply ignore these crazy claims because of what's at stake. I mean, this is the former, possibly future president of the United States here that we're talking about. This isn't some average guy. So who knows what type of effort has been put here, Yes, maybe Ryan was acting alone, but we don't know that for sure. And to see this history of all of these claims that he's been making, and I feel like there may be some truth to these claims, because at the very least, it seems like the mainstream media was kind of taking this guy seriously. Like, yeah, when you look at what he's posted, it looks crazy to us now because of what he did or tried to do to Donald Trump. But the mainstream media was taking this guy kind of seriously for years, and they featured him in multiple videos, multiple interviews. He's on propaganda videos over in Ukraine. So even though some of these claims sound far-fetched, the more and more I look into things, the more and more I believe that maybe, just maybe, these weren't just psychotic ramblings. Maybe this was the truth that was being rambled off by a psychotic person. But let's go ahead and roll this clip, and I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Ryan Routh was the suspect in an alleged assassination attempt on former President Trump. I immediately recognized the name because I had been in touch with Ryan Routh for over a year in the early stages of the war in Ukraine. Like thousands of other international volunteers, he apparently went to Ukraine to help. I don't believe that he was fighting himself, but he had put up signs in Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, offering to help other foreigners find places in Ukrainian battalions. And that's how I initially came across him. I spoke with him, I think, once on the phone and texted frequently, and he put me in touch with several foreign fighters. Now, he seemed very genuine and passionate about supporting Ukraine. He mentioned plans to bring in thousands of Afghan and Syrian fighters, which I took, frankly, with a grain of salt. In an interview with the news website Semaphore, he claimed he'd been unable to get visas for Afghan fighters, but we don't know if he was actually in touch with any Ukrainian officials at all. Now, I've met American volunteers everywhere from Syria to Ukraine. Some are experienced soldiers and clear about the dangers they're facing, but others seem less well informed and their motivations can be quite confused. To be honest, Ryan Routh did at times seem fairly naive. At one point, he sent me an audio track of a song he'd apparently recorded about the carnage caused by the war in Ukraine. In November of last year, he told me he was back in the US, in Hawaii, and that was the last time I heard from him. Anne-Marie.
Wow, Holly, fast.
Folks, I want you all to understand that I am well aware that what I'm about to say sounds kind of crazy. It sounds like something straight out of a movie. But unfortunately, this is where we've come in this country. So as I continue to look into this guy, I do think, I'm not saying this for a 100% fact. I'm not telling you all that I 100% believe this to be the case, but I do think that there is a slight possibility out here that there are trained mercenaries, possibly just crazy psychopaths who are trying to join certain war efforts in certain parts of the world, who may now be coordinating some sort of effort to take out Donald Trump. If this Ryan Wesley Routh dude got around as much as it looks like he did, and if there even is a tidbit of truth to his claims, then this guy has access and connections to people who are capable of doing crazy things all around the world. People who are ready and willing to die for certain causes, like Ryan Wesley Routh was willing to die for his cause. And this guy is so psychotic and so far out there brainwashed by the mainstream media. You know, you would wonder, like, hey, what type of people is he interacting with? More than likely, he's attracting other people like him, other people who probably hate Donald Trump and view Donald Trump as a threat to the war that's currently going on in Ukraine, because that's what this Ryan Wesley Routh guy was obsessed about. So if he finds a couple of other obsessed whack jobs, who knows if they're lying in wait with some sort of plan, you know, to further attempt to take out Donald Trump if Ryan Wesley Routh failed. All I'm saying here is that even if that's not the case, it's very obvious that this Ryan Wesley Routh guy, he was not your average psychopath. Yeah, he was crazy. What he did was crazy. But this guy's been around, folks. The U.S. government was well aware of him, okay? You don't go and fly to Ukraine and try to join the war and start doing war propaganda videos in other countries and stuff without being on a watch list. They were well aware of this guy. He has a criminal record. It was not that long ago that he was in trouble with the law. They've had to review this guy as he came back into the country multiple times. So there's a long list of run-ins with law enforcement and the U.S. government that this guy has had. And if there are any truths to his claim, and the mainstream media seems to kind of legitimize, like, I don't know how to explain it, But the fact that the mainstream media, at one point at least, was taking this guy kind of seriously, it makes his claims look more legitimate. So if those claims are legitimate, then this guy's definitely tied to some 3-letter agencies. And who knows what's going to come next. But this guy looks like some type of mercenary that was trying to join some type of war effort overseas. Obviously, he didn't get to do that, so they put him on some other mission, a mission to take out Donald Trump that failed, and now we have to wonder if all of these soldiers he has access to, where are they? Are they lying in wait trying to do something crazy as well? Who knows? All I'm saying is there may be a possibility that he is not working alone and that there's a whole freaking slew of these people out there ready and waiting to do something crazy again. But for now, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And if you find yourself getting too worked up by all of this, remember, it's just political cinema.